Let's get into the panel. Lots to talk about today. Fabulous panel, as always, on a Thursday. Institute of Public Affairs, Gideon Rosner, and the Weekend Chief of Staff at the Herald Sun, Caleb Bond. Gentlemen, starting with you, Caleb. What's this? What's the latest? I was going to say, what's this underhand method from Daniel Andrews? But what's the latest underhanded method from Daniel Andrews?
Good, got to qualify that. It's very interesting. He's sent out 5,000 poll notices to people, offering them $5 gift cards. I mean, you couldn't induce me to do a poll for $5, I have to say, if they answer it. And they couch it. There's no sort of political notion.
So it's like a survey?
Yeah. But you click on this thing, says nothing about the Labor Party, until you get onto the survey, and then they hit you with a 40-second video about how great Daniel Andrews is and everything he's delivering for the state and how bad Matthew Guy is, and then they give you like a poll as though it were a legitimate poll. It's a very odd way of doing polling, I have to say. I don't know what they're expecting to get out of it, because they've obviously skewed the result from the beginning. But it's really no surprise that you would get this sort of underhanded thing from the Labor Party, the same government that, of course, was responsible for red shirts and plenty of other things that we know about. But it just doesn't make any sense. They can't rely on that polling. They've already poisoned it.
Yeah, but it's about getting
push polling.
I was going to say it's about push polling and getting that 1 minute
and paying people to watch your ads.
Oh yeah,
and getting the ad out.
$5.
Talk to me about Parramatta. The ATO, the tax office, has a big facility there.
$64 million renovation to the ATO office, and there's a call from the union to install squat toilets instead of conventional toilets on cultural sensitivity grounds. Now, I've thought about this. Normally, I'd say it's a waste of money, it's woke pandering, etc. But you know what? This is the ATO we're talking about here. I'd say the hell with it. Make them all squat toilets. Make them work in the most squalid conditions possible, and maybe then they'd understand what it's like to be an Australian taxpayer for a day.
Take the toilets away, perhaps.
They can get it back when we get our stage 3 tax cuts.
Give them an outhouse.
I can't get over the first point that we're going to spend $60 million on a refurb. Who does a refurb that costs that much money?
Well, the Australian government. Are you really? How long have you spent in Canberra, Peter? Are you really surprised?
I've been out of Canberra
$64 million they could find behind the couch cushion in the Treasury Department, I think, or just print it.
It is extraordinary. I've got to play, it grieves me to play it for you at home, because it is just a really sorry, another really sorry episode in the Biden presidency. He was speaking at an event and he wants to call on a member of parliament in the room. Have a listen.
And I want to thank all of you here, for including bipartisan elected officials like Representative Governor, Senator Braun, Senator Booker, Representative Jackie. Are you here? Where's Jackie? I didn't think she was going to be here.
And the problem is the woman he's calling on had died, a Republican congresswoman. She died earlier in the year in a car crash. I mean, that is a car crash.
Look, you know, Biden so far gone, he could have been talking about Jackie Kennedy for all we know. But look, this is just a sign of his cognitive decline. And as always, the question is, what if it was Trump? I mean, I remember when Trump walked down a ramp and almost tripped once on a slippery ramp, and they were talking about how he was incapacitated, he had to be removed and so on. This guy, when it comes to Biden, they're ignoring the fact that he is manifestly just not up for the job. He is well past it. This isn't funny anymore.
They knew that.
They knew that before.
They knew that. Is that why they can't speak the truth?
I guess so. Or it's just the leftist ethic of solidarity, I suppose, for whatever reason. But these are trying times. We are on the brink of nuclear war, closest since the Cuban Missile Crisis, and this guy has his finger on the button. This is a very, very scary development, and they need to be asking themselves some serious questions.
Go back a little bit in history. Remember that they went very hard on Reagan. You know, obviously, he had dementia or Alzheimer's in his later years, but they went very hard on Reagan in his second term. But there's a no-go zone here on Biden and his wife, Jill, and I watched the imagery, particularly when I was in London. She looks like his carer now. Well,
I know you've got to ask who is actually in charge here, and he's openly admitted it himself. I mean, he's done a number of media engagements where he said at the end, I can't take questions now, I'll get in trouble if I do. And presumably that's because his aides are telling him, don't answer any questions because we know you're going to go off script. I know, and he's got notes that tell him when to sit down and when to stand up and who to greet and all sorts of things. This bloke is the leader of the free world. I just can't understand how in the US they cannot find leaders under the age of 70. It seems to be almost impossible for them. It's like, oh, well, it's your turn now. And surely we should expect better of political
No,
leaders.
don't be so ageist. Donald Trump is over 70 and he could come back.
Well, we'll see what happens with the midterms. They're coming up. We'll talk to you about that very shortly. Gideon Rosner, Caleb Bond, thank you.
Thank you.